Good afternoon. It is rolling up on the 3:30 hour, Thursday, July 7th, and I am coming at you northbound on US Highway 59 in Neosho County, Kansas. I just dropped off a load of block in Joplin, Missouri at a dentist building that they're attaching to a hospital there. It's a pretty darn big building. And I delivered that block all the way from Morris, Illinois. It was a pretty light load too. I went in there, was expecting to get like 14 or 15 pallets of block, but they were only able to give me 11. In fact, I was supposed to get 15, but they only gave me 11. So that lightened my load quite a bit. And after I dropped it off, I went to the Petro to grab a little bit of lunch and wait to see if my broker could find me anything, and he didn't. He told me to go ahead and deadhead home, which is about 300 miles, because I need to be off tomorrow, which is Friday. I need to be home sometime either tomorrow or Saturday, because I'm going on vacation next week. Definitely don't have the time to be staying out all weekend, and he just couldn't find me a load. But I sat there for a little longer just to make sure that he couldn't find anything, because even though I'm not paying for the fuel, I still want to do the responsible thing and try to keep the truck making money, because basically to do okay, this truck needs to make about $1,000 a day, especially with the way the fuel is. And I mean, to be honest with you, it probably needs to make a little bit more, especially since I'm going on vacation for a week and it's going to sit for a week. And the owner, I guess, he's also going to be on vacation and not working next week. But hey, you know, he's the one that's got to pay the bills. And and even though, you know, I was told to go home, I wanted to do the responsible thing and see if, you know, basically wait until the last minute to see if I could get another load. I didn't, so I'm deadheading home with no load. But anyway, so if you haven't watched any of my videos, I am a retired police detective, and I kind of like making videos and telling people about some of the cases that I've investigated as a detective, and also some of the cases I was involved in when I was a police officer, when I was just a street cop. But anyway, so I think I want to talk to you today about another homicide case that I investigated. This is a pretty sad one, and actually I'm going to tell you about two cases. They're both pretty short. They're both pretty major cases. One's a homicide, one's an attempted murder, but they're just not a whole lot to them, to be honest with you. But anyway, so the first case, it happened on a Christmas Eve. There was a liquor store clerk employee. He was on the phone with his daughter, telling her that his manager was coming in and going to relieve him so that way he could come to their Christmas party. He tells her, "Hey, I gotta go. There's a customer at the door that's having trouble with it, and I'll talk to you later," and hangs up with her. Well, their door would stick from time to time, and this guy was having a little bit of trouble opening it. Well, the guy gets it open and comes in, and he's armed with a small crowbar. It's one of those crowbars that's about 16 inches long. It has the hook on one end and then the chisel tip on the other end. And he's trying to rob the place. Well, the liquor store kept a pistol either in or around the cash register. The clerk grabbed the pistol in an attempt to ward off the robber, and the suspect attacks him with the crowbar, causing the clerk to drop the pistol. Well, the suspect picks up the pistol, shoots the clerk, and then leaves. They had video of the incident, but the video was just, it was good video, but it was just bad bad camera placement, and I saw so much of that over my career. To be honest with you, part of me has thought about trying to be basically a security consultant. Basically, I would go in and evaluate your business or your home and tell you things that you can do and all that. And I am no electronics guru. Like if somebody says, "Hey, install me some cameras," yeah, I'm probably going to have to get help with that. That's just not me. I mean, I could probably physically install this stuff, but as far as hooking it up and turning it on, making it run, I'm just not. That's just not me. But anyway, I think I could be a really good advisor and all that kind of stuff. Like, in fact, I think I could do sales and that stuff, to be honest with you, pretty well. But camera placements are always they're always catching the action, but they're so far away and at such drastic angles that it's really not catching a good look of the suspect. And I mean, I'll give you an example. If I owned a business, let's say I owned this liquor store, and this liquor store was actually attached to a gas station, and let's say I owned the whole thing, I would have cameras set up all around the outside. I would have cameras on the pumps, because cameras nowadays, they're actually pretty cheap, and the storage is basically free. I mean, you get you a hard drive that has a couple terabytes of information on it, and heck, you can keep a month's worth of recording on there. But anyway, and I would have and they would be hidden cameras. Like I would hide them in a fashion to where they can actually pick up the suspect's face, because a lot of times the suspect is going to be pulling down their mask as they are approaching, and they're going to try and be nonchalant as possible, so they're not going to necessarily walk 50 yards across a parking lot with their mask down. They're going to be try to blend in, and they're going to have their hat up, making it look like a stocking cap or whatever, or a bandana around their neck or whatever, and then they're going to pull it down as they're getting closer to the building or about to go in. And I've seen that happen more often than not. And if there could be real height cameras, that would just be fantastic. I actually had a case one time, just on a real quick side note, where a camera looked over the convenience store's clerk's shoulder, and I mean, it gave us just an awesome picture of this guy's face. And basically it showed the guy, like I said, this is a total unrelated case, but showed him holding his gun and holding up the clerk. But in any case, that's what I would do. But anyway, so the video showed a lot, but it didn't show a lot of the guy's face. Basically, I could tell that it was a white guy. That was really about it. I don't even think we could tell like age or anything like that. But anyway, so the suspect, for whatever reason, abandoned his crowbar that he came in with, and he also abandoned his stocking cap on the path that he ran. And he ran to the south from the business, and some people saw him running, and they didn't know what he did. They just saw him running, and then when we came in the area, when officers came in the area, that's when they kind of put two and two together. And actually, I think maybe one of the people that saw him run was actually going to be a customer at the liquor store, and I think they maybe found the victim shot. But anyway, so I submitted the crowbar and the hat to the laboratory, to the state laboratory, and they were able to extract DNA from both of them. And the DNA actually belonged to a guy that had done a prison term in another state. I want to say it was like Louisiana or Mississippi area. Some reason like New Orleans kind of sticks in my mind. And he had done some prison time for either he either killed somebody in a fight or severely hurt them in a fight a long time ago. So that's how we were able to get him identified. So we get the suspect in custody. He ends up not wanting to give a statement, and he actually ends up getting federally charged due to the Hobbs Act. Back then, there were some, basically the U.S. Attorney's offices around the country were kind of justifying themselves, and so they actually started taking on a lot more cases. Because typically, this case would actually have been handled in our federal or in our state court, at least where I'm from. But since it did have a federal attachment, our district attorney was actually, pretty cooperative in making sure that, the federal court took this over because that's what everybody wanted. The federal court wanted it, and then to basically justify their existence, or to help justify their existence, I guess. And our state court was cool with that because they didn't need to justify their existence because they're busy enough as it is. And everybody was cool with it. Basically, they had the bigger hammer, I guess. The federal court did, to where the suspect could get in a lot more trouble, or the sentencing could be a lot more harsh. But anyway, so the guy ended up pleading guilty, and pretty much, I think he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, or he'll be very, very, very old before he's actually eligible for parole. Like, he'll be in his 80s, I think, before he's actually eligible for parole. I think he got like a minimum of a 33 or 34 year sentence, and I want to say he was almost 50 when the crime happened, or at least in his 40s. But anyway, so the DNA on that, actually, it came back in 2.5 days. Okay, and that is so fast for DNA. Normally, when I would submit things to the laboratory for DNA analysis, to get the results back takes months. And but this, 2.5 days. And I later found out that it took 2.5 days because they basically worked day and night on this case. And when you submit something to a laboratory for DNA analysis, at least back then, there were a number of things that had to be done, and they had to be done for a certain amount of time and in the right order. And it got done really quickly. And I definitely understand as to why they can't do that with every case, because basically this DNA was ran pretty much around the clock for 2.5 days to get identified. So anyway, so that's the case, and man, I watched that video about 100 times, watching that poor guy get shot. Honestly, it was probably one of those cases that kind of affected me, over my career. I've had a few cases that, to be honest with you, probably wouldn't have hurt if I would have sought professional help. But, I didn't, because I'm a cop. And, but, hey, that kind of stuff, that came with the job. I had to work a lot of sad stuff, but there were a handful of things that, will stick with me my whole career, or my whole life, and that's one of them. So anyway, so that's that case. Another case I want to talk to you about actually happened next door at the convenience store around Thanksgiving time, different year. I want to say these were about a year apart, maybe. But it was around Thanksgiving time. Like, it was 2 or 3 or 4 days before Thanksgiving, I think. It might have even been the day before Thanksgiving. But basically, a guy comes in the store to rob the store. He has a handgun. He robs the store, and I want to say he took a watch from one clerk, and then took something. I think he took something else from the other clerk, because there were 2 clerks working, a guy and a girl. They were working together, and the guy had his watch stolen. And I don't remember if the female had anything stolen or not, or if it was just money that she ended up giving to the suspect. But anyway, this guy literally looked like he was turning to walk out the door. Like, he could have just been free, like they would have, reported it, and they would have lived and all that, and they ended up living, but they ended up getting shot because this guy looked like he was going to leave, and he turns around, holds the gun down towards the floor, up over the counter, because he had put them both down on the floor at one point, or during the robbery, and just starts shooting multiple times, basically spraying that entire area with bullets. Hit both clerks multiple times. They ended up living, and then I get involved. And of course, they don't have a whole lot of information. I think all we knew it was a black guy with a mask. And I mean, that was pretty much it. However, they did have cameras on the outside of the building, but they were also at weird angles, and they didn't get good shots of people's faces. But it showed him walking around, and I had enough video that showed him on his telephone. He was on his cell phone as he was walking around the business at one point, and then he didn't have his mask down at that point, I don't think, but it was still at an angle where I just couldn't identify him. So he goes in, does the robbery, and then as he's running, he pulls his mask up and passes a camera. But I kid you not, he literally was caught between, his face was caught between frames, and it was just blurry. We had people try to clean all that up, and they just couldn't do it. Sent it away. We sent it away to, I believe, an FBI computer laboratory, and that was who they basically explained it to me as his face was just caught in between two frames. Had he been just a snap of the fingers quicker or slower, his face would have been caught within frame, but since he was between two frames, it was just all distorted and you couldn't identify him. But anyway, I ended up using my knowledge of cell phones, and I'm not very technological. I'm not a very techno person, but I definitely know the capabilities of what we can do, looking through people's cell phones and cell phone records and records and all that. So he had his phone to his ear, like he's on it. I don't know if he received a call. I don't know if he made a call. I don't know if he was on the phone for 10 seconds or 30 seconds. But since I could see him on his phone, I got justification to do what's called a tower dump. And basically, I took all of the cell phone towers that would provide service to the store's address, and I got all the cell phones that were attached to them for the set time that I asked for. Now, let me tell you, even early morning hours, this was I think 4 o'clock in the morning, it's a lot of damn information. There were a lot of people using their dang cell phones. And the way the cell phone towers worked back then anyway, and they may have different technology now, but basically you have the cell phone tower smack dab in the middle of about a 2-mile diameter circle. And the cell phone tower is going to be divided up into 3 pieces of pie. And let me see what I can do here. I think I might try and decide if I wanted to make for some reason I thought I was about to make this turn. I don't want to make this turn. But anyway, so each cell phone tower is divided up into 3 equal sides. Basically, it looks like a peace symbol or a pie, I guess. If you were to draw a 2-mile diameter circle, put a pinpoint right in the middle, and then draw 3 even pieces of pie, that's how it works. And you have side A, side B, and side C. Well, so I identified all the cell phone towers, and basically I said, okay, phone companies, and I did I think I did 5 phone companies. I think that's, I mean, I did all the phone companies that we had in our city. And basically what I said, okay, phone companies, I need all the numbers that was attached to your side C of tower G293 and side B of tower H294 and side A of tower B623. And I mean, you get the hint. And basically what I did was I put a pinpoint in the middle of the store and then did a 2-mile radius of every surrounding cell tower, and any cell tower side that encompassed the store, that's the one that was my target. So anyway, so it was a ton of information, and I actually I started going through it, and it was actually pretty overwhelming. But I picked out a number that was just odd, and I called the number, and I want to say I called a couple of numbers, but there was one that was really odd, and maybe I only called this one. But I called the number and kind of came up with a big fat 0. I mean, literally calling at calling somebody I don't know and saying, hey, I need to know something about somebody else I don't know that called you from this number. And of course, I don't get any information, and I just kind of put it away. And I put it away because it can be used as information later, should something develop. Because basically what would happen is if I develop a suspect and they say, no, don't know what you're talking about, wasn't in that area, then I can say, but your cell phone was, because this is your phone number, and people are going to have their cell phone with them vast majority of the time when they go places, and they're going to have their cell phone and not somebody else's. But anyway, so the case kind of ran cold for a while, and then I get some random tip that some girl is in jail in a county like 3 or 4 counties away that has information on this case. So me and my partner, we saddle up and head on out there. We go to the jail, and the girl is like, what are you doing here? Tell her what I was told, and basically get told, yeah, no, I told them I didn't want to talk to anybody about that. I don't want to provide information. Basically, don't want to be a snitch. So we made a little bit of small talk, and ultimately she ended up giving me the information. Basically, she was like, you know what, the person that did this is a jackass, and I want to go ahead and tell you who done it. So she gave me a name. So then at that point, I had a name to go along with it. And I started investigating and found out that the number that I had identified as calling the other number, that was his phone number. And I actually... and then things just kind of started over the next several months. Things just kind of fell together. At one point, I was told that a person that was getting out of jail wanted to provide me with information. And come to find out, that person wanted to provide me with the clerk's wristwatch that this guy stole. So I was told that this guy was supposed to get out of jail at 8 p.m. on this date, and that I needed to be there to pick him up because he wants to cooperate in this investigation. Well, I pick him up, and we go to the police station, and we're talking, and he tells me, he says, well, you called me right after this happened. And I looked at him all puzzled, and I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you called my phone asking me about why Ollie called me. I'm like, holy smokes, no kidding. Like, this guy remembered that. So anyway, he's trying to make arrangements to get this watch because it's actually at somebody's house in safe storage. And what he told me was he was trying to buy some drugs off of the suspect, and the suspect had called him, and actually, no, he was on his way to the suspect's house to buy drugs. And when he was on his way, he sees the suspect, and the suspect flags him down and basically jumps in his vehicle, in his car, and is like, get me the hell out of here. And I think, I want to say maybe he told him, or he insinuated that he had just robbed this place and shot the clerks. So anyway, so they get him out. So he gets him out of the area, and I want to say they end up going back to his house, not the suspect's house, but the cooperating individual's house, or maybe someplace else. But anyway, so at one point, my cooperating individual grabs the clerk's watch and says, I'm keeping this for a rainy day. And this guy locked it in a safe. And the safe was actually at a friend's house or a girlfriend's house or something like that. So fast forward to, months later, and this guy's wanting to cooperate. And he's trying to get people to go get this watch for him. And it just is not working out. And I was really hesitant on basically letting this guy out of my sight, because if I let him out of my sight, maybe he suddenly feels less obligated to help out, because I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why he's helping out. I don't remember why he's helping out anyway, and I don't remember if he was getting consideration for some case or what, or if he just decided he wanted to help with this case for some reason, because that does happen. But anyway, he couldn't find anybody to go get this damn watch. So then he finally was like, man, he goes, let me go get it. I'll go get it and bring it back to you. I said, okay. So we're leaving, and I'm going to drop him off at his house. And we leave the police station, and he starts talking about being hungry. And I told him, I said, let me take you to get you some food. Took him to McDonald's and bought that guy a cheeseburger and a shake and some fries maybe. I don't know. But I just remember bought him a cheeseburger and a shake. And that dude thought I was the greatest. Here I am, I'm a cop. He just happens to mention he's hungry, and I'm like, hey, let me feed you. What he doesn't know is that was actually just a part of a big strategy, because I don't want this guy being hungry, because I don't want him making any extra stops. I don't want something to happen, or him to get more time to think about whether he wants to cooperate. Basically, I want him to go get that watch and come back. And so I fed him and dropped him off at his house. And to be honest with you, I was kind of on the fence on whether or not I was ever going to hear from that guy again. Not more than 15 minutes later, he shows back up at the police station. Here you go, man. Got this watch for you. Now, the clerk had actually identified that as his watch, and the suspect actually ended up taking a plea on the case, and he did a little bit of prison time, not a lot, because he was actually in prison still for something else while after he was identified as a suspect. My theory is, and I think I talked to the female clerk about this, and I think we both had the same theory at about the same time, and just kind of an aha moment between us. This guy used to come in all the time to that convenience store and hit on her. Well, we think that he thought she would recognize him or recognize his voice and be able to identify him, and that's why he tried to kill him.
First right onto US 75.
And but yeah, we think that's what happened with that case. But in any case, so those are my two cases for the day. A couple of them, both of them, like I said, are pretty major ordeals around a holiday, and that always sucks, and not for me, not because I'm working, I'm the one that signed up for that, but it just sucks when people are victims of a case like that, or any case, to be honest with you, around the holiday season. So anyway, so that's my stories for the day. I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I am getting ready to drive through Altoona, Kansas. It's in Wilson County. I'm on US 75, driving northbound. Until next time, you guys have a good day.